Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday. Woo! If it's around 9 o'clock, you know it's time for Lovebabz, Lovetalk. Guess who I got in the studio? They were supposed to be here the other day, and the fire down the street at Kumo, Japanese restaurant, thwarted our conversation. I'm Babz Rawls Ivy. Welcome to Lovebabz, Lovetalk. So I've got Gorman Bashard, who is no stranger to this show or this station, and Bill Krause, who I don't know if you've been on this. You haven't been on this show before.
No, not at all.
So you got to bring the mic.
No, not at all.
You could pull it in front of you, or Harry will come in here and straighten it out. So yeah, just move the arm and then turn it towards you, and then you talking to me. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
So I was at your shindig for the documentary to talk about it, the factory.
Yeah, that was a fun party. Thank you for
It
coming.
was a fun. You know what?
We had a great time.
I love a party in a cool space.
We great people. Like
You did.
diverse, lively, interesting.
And it was nice to see people I haven't seen in a good while. So it was really nice.
And also the venue.
That's what I mean.
Is that not the coolest venue
and
for a party?
you know what? And it's so infamous.
Yeah.
Well, it's proven once again to be a great place to party.
Yes, and I tell you what, all the stories that I heard from people talking about when they, at various stages of when they were there in that building doing stuff, like, whoa. I was like, if this building could really talk.
That's sort of what hopefully the film will do for it.
So now tell me, why this factory? Because there's a bunch of factories in this town. I mean, I don't think New Haven is considered a factory town like Pittsburgh or other places, but we have some factories here.
Well, it was a factory town, I think, back in the late 1800s, going into the early 1900s.
Okay.
I remember it well. I used to work at a bunch of factories. I feel that old anyway. But they, thanks to Dick Lee and that administration and that mindset back then, they pretty much all the buildings disappeared. So a lot of our great old architecture was just knocked down.
Was he just not a fan of?
I think he was
because
a fan
some of the stuff that I've seen under his, I mean, it just seemed a little crazy.
I think he was really big on accepting government money to knock down what were supposedly blighted, and I'm using quotation marks for people on radio, blighted areas, thinking that he could turn. I think he was like a forerunner of gentrification, which we've seen. While it might make things look clean and pretty, really a lot of times it's not as great as it cracked up to be.
Yeah.
But it also never had the economic development impacts.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like ruined communities, ruined the fabric of the city.
And that's attributed to him, don't you think?
Well, it was
absolutely.
It was just of the time. That's how people did it,
Mm-hmm.
and he was actually just more effective at actually getting stuff done with this, federal money than a number of other mayors.
Because the whole communities got wiped out.
Well, between Oak Street and Church Street.
Yeah,
just destroyed.
And then that disastrous Lee High School building, which I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but now but it's got a new use. And
well, the clock factory, just to say, it itself was like the hub of this thriving community of workers, immigrant workers, for over 100 years, and we have some of the people that grew up in the neighborhood in the film, and even though the neighborhood's been gone for 40 years, the neighborhood group still gets together every year for a reunion, because they had such wonderful lives growing up as kids, poor, but didn't know it. One big happy family. They all, everyone looked out for each other,
mm-hmm.
and they have such wonderful memories. And that's part of why we're doing this film. Is just as you're picking up too, the people from all these different chapters of the building's life have this love for the building, or the love for the times they had there. And some people, achieved things at a high level.
Mm-hmm.
Brick and Wood, during its R&B period. Like Bobby Brown would come down from Massachusetts as he didn't
As a
perform.
kid.
Well, to listen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because we had great people.
Yes.
Run DMC, Freddie Jackson.
I saw Freddie Jackson at Brick. Yes.
Yeah,
That's the first time I saw him,
nice.
and I thought that was I was telling Lucy Gelman. I said, Brick and Wood for us was like a little slice of a New York nightclub, high five kind of scene right here in New Haven that didn't exist outside of New Haven.
Exactly.
I mean, that didn't exist in New Haven. You had to go the closest thing was to New York to get that.
I'm told
that
people came
vibe.
from the tri-state area.
Yeah.
To the Brick and Wood.
Yeah.
Locally, like Cornell West and Bell Hooks went there, and he writes about it in his memoir, when they were writing Breaking Bread together. So it's all these like amazing connections.
Yes.
And,
I love it.
Yeah.
So you all chose this building because of all of its chapters and stories? Like, what made you? Because there's a bunch of other buildings that you could have.
But because I've always been obsessed with these older buildings, and my wife and I will always go to like little industrial towns and we'll look at the buildings, go and sort of like make up stories as to what went on in there. In this building, we didn't have to make up any stories. This building had more stories than you could possibly even tell in one film, and we keep finding more of them. I mean, and they run the gamut from the largest clock factory, in
the country,
in the
right?
world,
In the world.
at one point, and to a mime troupe, the Badass White Boys motorcycle clubs, more strip bars than I can count on one hand. The Brick and Wood after hours clubs, the DEA busted because people were growing pot. There was a cockfighting ring, and bands practiced. Tons of bands practiced in there, and there was even a murder. In what 2014,
2013,
13.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, recently I'm sitting there talking to Bill about the documentary, and someone comes in and says, "Hey guys, come look what we just found." And he pulls out this cache of automatic weapons that were in large garbage bags underneath this spot where the floor had collapsed.
Get out.
No.
Yeah, like an Uzi. I'm not good
A
with
street
guns,
sweeper. There was
Like
a French
when?
version. This was
3 months ago.
yeah.
No.
It was in the paper. The
Yeah.
Independent reported on it.
So I have it on film of him
And
showing
we just happened
us
to be
these
there
guns.
together with,
Yeah.
and he was there with his camera.
Well, if you find cash and jewels, let me know.
Yeah. We
Well,
will,
I'll tell
sure,
you a
yeah.
story. I mean, I won't say who this was, but someone told me they forgot $150,000 in cash. in the
I don't know
ceiling
how
in
you
the
forget
building.
that. Yeah.
Well, because he had $1 million, but and this was like in a separate spot.
Oh my gosh.
But it's not there now.
So how do you tell the story? Like, do you tell it chronologically? Where do you start? What's the start? How do you tell it?
I don't usually have the answer to that till we actually really start putting everything together, and we're still filming interviews. But I feel the story's going to probably start somewhere at the. You usually start with at a point that is really dramatic, and it could very well be the murder, because the murder sort of is what got the building sold and into the developer's hands.
Really?
Yeah.
So before that, what was going to happen to the building? Just let it be how it is?
Well, so I specialize in redeveloping historic buildings.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, and I fell in love with old buildings when I was literally 10. I went from collecting Hot Wheels to loving old buildings. And so this has been like a life work, kind of. So I've been working to help try to save this building, redevelop it for 10 years.
Wow.
And so initially the family and I were working together. They wanted to try to do it piecemeal. And then after working together, I don't know, on and off for like 5 years, this murder happened. And it was actually just a couple of years after another shooting had happened outside another club. And I just said to myself when I saw this in the papers, I thought, they have to sell this because it's going to, take the family down. They couldn't manage it. And so that galvanized me to galvanize them. Okay, they got to sell it. And it still took years and years. But that's really the turning point.
Okay. And so you're gonna tell this story, and you're gonna tell the whole story, or as much as the story. Are you going to talk about its roots, its beginnings?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
We're going to go right back to Chauncey Jerome and the beginning of the clock factory,
Mhm.
and how important it was. I mean, But and then go into the different chapters of the craziness that ensued after that.
Okay. And so, do you like the direction that the building is going in? And do you circle back around after you do this to sort of see what the end game is?
Oh, absolutely. We'll end with it's sort of like its rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like the direction. I personally wish there was more artist housing, and like in the bottom floor would be like things like galleries and a coffee shop. And
Oh, it's not going to be there?
no,
Well,
not
it's
at
going
the
to be
moment.
it's going to be a mix of affordable artist live work lofts and some affordable apartments.
Okay.
And we hope to. It was originally going to be 100% artist live work apartments, and artist communities like this really have a great impact on the community, both
Mm-hmm.
economically,
But they don't have any money, though.
socially.
Do
well,
they have money?
The financing allows or requires lower income, so it actually is a great fit for artists. And I did a project very similar in Bridgeport, the old Reed's department store,
Oh.
which opened. It's now 61 affordable artist live work lofts.
How big?
Approximately the same size, 150,000 square feet, but the 61 lofts with gallery and retail on the first floor. And since it opened in 2003, it's been sort of the anchor of a renaissance in downtown. All the development that's happened around it was catalyzed by that. And it's the anchor of the Bridgeport Art Trail. It's really helped bring the city, the downtown, along culturally, artistically, as well as economically.
So is the artist community thrilled about this? Are they excited?
Oh, well, we had,
I mean, from what I could hear, everybody seemed excited.
we did a survey a couple of years ago, artist survey, and we had 300 artists from across the country express interest in coming to the Clock Factory. So 100 artists from New Haven alone, people from all over Connecticut, but then L.A., San Francisco, Brooklyn, Queens, Texas, Montana, all over. It's one of the strongest surveys I've ever seen for this kind of a project, and it's partially because the Clock Factory is cool, partially because New Haven is cool.
It is.
So it was a great combination.
Okay.
So we're hoping to actually go back and explain this a little bit more to powers that be.
So who's in charge of this? Is this a private developer kind of thing, or is this
it's a private
city?
Private developer using different forms of financing that require affordable housing and historic preservation, and then using it for artists live work and regular apartments. And it's a group from Portland, Oregon, that specializes in this kind of thing. Reed Community Partners.
Okay.
So the film has no complete separation.
Yeah, okay. 100% independent.
Yeah, the film is
effort.
completely me. I don't work for other people.
But how do they feel about you doing this film? Because this is timely, right?
Yeah.
Like,
It's
were you
timely.
doing this film before you knew that they were going to do this?
I think they bought the building partially because of the stories.
Because of the
Because of
stories?
the
Yeah.
stories. I mean,
Okay.
they're not really making less.
So
money
you
on this.
really are a part of this.
Well, I guess in a way, I am. But I mean, it really is. It's there's such an amazing trajectory, and anything. I mean, they can't come across as bad because anything bad that happened in the building was way before.
It's before
they came in.
them.
Yeah.
But
But if-
sometimes things can cast things in a light that could be unflattering, and it could be like, oh, this might be more than what we want.
Mm-hmm.
But it might not, but at the second time, it could be really cool for them to say, we are a part of continuing this story of
it's
this
kind of-
building.
It's kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly of history.
Yeah.
And they're cool with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if they have some history doing this around the country,
Yeah.
I'm sure they've come across buildings with similar stories.
What they've said, and it's the same thing with me. If you added up all the stories from all the centuries, from all the other buildings we've ever done, they wouldn't add up to all the stories of the Clock Factory.
Oh,
That is just it. I mean, there are so many stories. I mean, I'll come across buildings. Like I said, I've been obsessed with this. But it's usually a bunch of squatters, some bands playing there, maybe one club. No, this is like you would need to take like 50 buildings and combine their weird history to equal this.
What's the most interesting thing what are the most interesting things that you've discovered that you didn't know and you were like, whoa?
Oh, I mean, didn't know there's. I mean, I didn't know that someone was murdered in there. The fire where again someone else passed away.
Mm-hmm.
The mime troupe. Okay, so my father owned Boppers back in the day.
Oh my God, are you is the hangout? The one in New Haven or the one in Hartford?
He owned all of them.
Oh, get out! I spent so much time in Boppers and Hartford.
And I remember because I the only job I've had as an adult where I wasn't working for myself. I was a manager there for 2 years. And worst job I ever had. But that's a whole other story. However, there were one of the most annoying parts of it were these mimes. They would come up to you and basically shame you into buying a flower for the woman that was just standing next to you.
Oh my God,
I'm
a
manager.
That.
I'm just standing there talking to somebody, and it's like, this is a customer. I'm not, And of course, they're mimes, so they can give you that and make you feel guilty about not buying a flower. I really was not a fan of these guys, and then to find out that here they are in this they lived in this building. I think that's kind of hysterical.
A mime community.
Yeah, a mime, and anyone who was in New Haven in that period remembers these mimes with their roses.
I swear to God, Boppers was one of my favorite because I love the music.
Yeah,
but I remember the mimes.
I think they must have made a couple $100,000 a year on selling roses at Boppers. We should have gotten a cut of that.
Oh my God!
But then part of the film, though, or the interest of creating the film, was then tracking down these people. Right?
Oh my
gosh! Those guys were there in the 80s.
If you were a mime in the 80s, what do you do now? What are you doing now?
You're an old mime in the
in assisted living.
I tracked this guy. I tracked this guy down. He's actually up in like Washington, Connecticut. It's like way out in the country now. And the joke was, I'm going to go interview a mime. Right, so I had to videotape this, but he was very talkative. He was an artist, had video photos from the time.
Get out of here!
Oh, tons. And so these whole worlds would open up. We would track down one of these people. That's part of the film. It's like finding the key people who were involved in some of these, and then interviewing them in the spaces before it's renovated. And then we have their artifacts in the building, or they have video, or they have photos. But so then these whole worlds would kind of open up. So when I met the mime, he was telling me, among other things, they just went into these raw spaces, and the owner of the building said, there's a lawnmower repair guy on the first floor, Goodies. He'll show you how to run the gas lines and the electric. And they ended up making these beautiful spaces. But the guy was telling me that, it wasn't a secure building, and people kept getting their stuff broken into, ripped off. So he developed all of these ways to kind of like barricade and booby trap things, the door, and he said he put broken glass on the windowsills and greased the drain pipes. And I'm like, my God, what was it like to live there? And he said it was the best experience of my life.
Oh my God!
Complete artistic freedom.
Wow.
Yeah, something I had never heard, that if you put chalkboard like you would see in a school with chicken wire and wood, it becomes basically something that you cannot break. With like a sledgehammer, you can't break it.
What?
And that's what they would build the walls where people would practice, so they could keep their instruments in the building and they wouldn't get stolen.
Get out of here!
Yeah, so that's
DIY. I didn't know.
It's it's so much DIY, but then it ends up, people do these cool things. So that's another part of the film is like this energy, creativity, self-expression, resilience that runs right from the founder, Chauncey Jerome, in the 1840s, when he revolutionized, clock manufacturing and started his own company, to people like the mimes, or even the Badass White Boys had this amazing space. Like, these guys were artistic. It's really,
And that was the motorcycle gang?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what a motorcycle club. I'm sorry. Motorcycle club.
Chartered club. Or the most famous strip club was in the mid-'80s to the early 2000s, called Club International.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy had a glass swimming pool hanging from the ceiling in this building. Right? And he had,
I've never been in there.
Topless volleyball. I wasn't there either. And topless volleyball in the courtyard. And would take,
Get out of
high
here.
rollers on jet
skis.
What
kind of California kind of thing is this?
It was called a little bit of Las Vegas, in New Haven, or it was called the Adult Disneyland. It was like in some national,
So did you find people who went there?
I found the owner.
But did you find people who went
and danced there? I haven't actually talked to customers.
That might be a little challenging.
I haven't talked to customers yet, but the owner, and women that danced there.
Really?
And so I have, there are a lot of these things where like you wouldn't believe these stories unless you had some evidence, like glass swimming pool hanging. But so I have,
Is there pictures?
I have
Oh,
photo.
yeah,
I got
pictures.
photos.
Of a glass swimming pool
Like
hanging
small,
from the.
it's like
But it doesn't matter. The fact
Right.
that you have a swimming
Totally.
pool hanging from
Totally.
the
Or the volleyball court in the courtyard, or the shower that was in the middle of the space that had black lights, so the women would
God.
glow,
I mean, I think didn't it win awards as being like one of the best
Yeah, so you may remember
adult
like the
clubs in
New
the
Haven,
country.
the Advocate
Yeah.
would do this, the 100 most influential people in town. This guy would regularly be one of the 100 people. Yeah, it was called again. Sometimes they called it Oz, and then he was called God. It was like this multiplex with all these things. He was like a genius marketer. He was always doing something new to get people in. So one of the things about the stories is like these clubs or art shows that would generate like lines around the block. And I'm told, for instance, Brick and Wood, for I guess some of the better shows would have lines around the block.
Yeah.
And a couple people have said to me, you had to be pretty or know somebody
Mm-hmm.
to get in. And it's like amazing, like this kind of that semi-abandoned building at that time.
Yeah.
In the not a great part of town would attract these people. And it was just like one type of story after the next.
Are the Brick and Wood people still around?
Yeah.
The Brick and Wood, we've got a lot of people. I think probably because a lot of people know me from the punk days. So that's one of the easiest to find.
Mm-hmm.
But we would love if any of the listeners out there have stories from anything to do with the building. Your band practiced there. You saw a great show at the Brick and Wood. You danced at Club International. You were growing pot before the DEA. You ran the cockfighting ring. Whatever your story is, we'll even put you in silhouette if you don't want to know. If you don't want to be shown. I'm not joking. We really will. I mean, if you have a story, reach out to us. I'm sure you're going to give our URL at the end of.
No, give it now. Give it now.
Well, the best way to find us right now is through our Kickstarter because we are raising funds to do this film.
That's all right.
And the easiest way is just go to ourkickstarter.com. Ourkickstarter.com. And it'll take you right to the page. The Kickstarter ends next Thursday night. And there's some amazing rewards. You can actually get pieces of old clocks and such found in the factory. I think the coolest reward we're offering, there was a room where the featured dancers for Club International would change, and they would leave notes handwritten right on the wall to other dancers. So we're actually offering off a piece of the wall where some dancers left notes or talked about the club. So you're gonna get a real piece of like strip bar history from New Haven.
Wow.
And you can see photos of it on our Kickstarter.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. I mean, we saw Michelle Turner and I saw the Brick and Wood sign.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked past. I didn't even see it. She saw it. She's like, "There's the sign."
That's available for $50,000. We will. So
I'll just settle for taking a picture.
I was gonna say, if you write a check, I can even give you a little discount. I'll go pick it up for you right now.
So whoever wants the Brick and Wood sign, I know some people do.
But people can become backers for as little as $5 too.
Oh, that's wonderful to know.
And you'll get your name in the end credits. There's always that.
So are
thank
people
you.
walking up to the street giving you $5?
No,
not in cash.
we prefer to go do the Kickstarter. Makes it a lot easier to keep track of.
And then we'll have your name to put on, at the end as a thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
at
that's
the end of
nice.
the film.
So, so when will the film be done? When do you think you're going to start? Well, you already
We
started.
already started filming.
So when do you want to
We're
be
hoping
done?
to have a rough cut, a decent cut of it done, maybe for NH Docs. You know that film festival.
Yes, that huge film tidal wave of a film festival.
This year it was, if I must say so.
Oh my God, it was a roller coaster ride.
Yeah. And especially with Moore. Moore was amazing. But we're hoping to have a rough cut done by then. But probably, for where the public can see it on a regular basis, it's like a year and a half, 2 years off. They take a long time.
All right, so you go from pizza to the building to the factory.
Mm-hmm.
So your interests are varied and wide.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, you can't just. I mean, if you're making a documentary, you got to do subjects that you find appealing. Because otherwise, I know myself enough to know if I was bored with a subject, the film would never get made. It would just,
So how do you two know each other? How did this bromance start?
It was the film commission.
Yeah. So I was collecting these stories over the 10 years or so, and I'd be just taking people on tours for one reason or another, like not paid or anything, but like, someone would come to, contractor or someone would come look at it. And I'd start with say, okay, well, just casually, well, here's where the pot grow house that was busted by the DEA, and they broke into the strip club at the time because that's where they thought it was with battering rams. And
Yeah, the DEA agents thought it was in the strip club.
Of course.
Okay.
Because, that's where pot is hidden.
Yes.
Or, and there's one story after another. And at the end of an hour and 30 stories, people would say, oh, my God, you've got to do something with these stories. And so after years of this, and then tracking down some of these people and seeing these little worlds open up, I would talk to someone at the Connecticut Film Commission, and he said, oh, you got to talk to Gorman. And then that's how it started.
Oh, okay. So you love this project. This is a great project. This factory has a history unto itself. Very New Haven stories.
Oh, absolutely.
Very New Haven. So the people who you are talking to, what are they like when they remember that? What are they like now?
It varies completely to just being people who who are now in the professional life, and they're talking about what was considered the greatest party in New Haven history, the Sex Ball, which was the architecture school's annual bash in 1984. Or they might be a little burnt out in some cases. They might be a little weird or eccentric. I mean, runs the gamut. It really runs the gamut. And as to the stories, because I mean, it as weird as it is, I mean, was anything weirder than seeing G.G. Allen on stage? And he played there, and G.G. Allen's reputation, anyone who knows him in the punk world knows that it's just, you did not want to go to a G.G. Allen show unless you were wrapped from head to toe in plastic.
Ooh.
Yeah, he was disgusting on stage.
Notorious skinhead.
Yeah.
And he caused a riot basically wherever he went, including the Cloud Factory.
Oh.
Yeah. So I mean, you had a little bit of everything. I mean, so it runs the gamut to, and it really was just like nice moms running the pot house. It was sort of like that show Weeds, and they were just trying to put their kids through college. So they were really the sweet ones.
But it's actually been a great honor meeting these people and allowing, having them allow us, as perfect strangers to hear their stories, share their lives. And part of why they're open to sharing their lives and their photos and all those things is because of the great times they had there. So they're fond memories or proud of what they accomplished. And, for me, it's just been wonderful meeting them and an honor to have them work with us.
So for the murder, is it solved? Has it been solved? Has somebody been brought to justice? Okay.
It was a horrible incident where this fellow came into the after-hours club. This was, when it was the last strip club, which was not the one with the glass swimming pool. And had trouble with his girlfriend. It was like 2, 3 in the morning, and somehow got a gun in, shot the woman dead, shot 2 other people who lived. But the odd thing was that the club had done everything right. They had a photo of his driver's license, and they had a high-res image of him as he walked in. They patted him. I don't know how he got things. So they caught him in like a week, and he got 67 years.
Whoa! He should have got 67 years.
Yeah, well, there was like a lovely woman young woman who was like doing good things, trying to do good things, doing good things with their life, and then it was
just having a night out, like just being out, like most people go out. And okay, so I'm glad that it's a solved, not an unsolved kind of thing. I don't know the story of that, so or maybe I need to go back and look at it, and it'll jog my memory. But
I'm sure if you what was it? Scores at that point, or
it was
called
Key Club at the time. It's the same.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh God, I remember all these clubs.
There were so many strip clubs there.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's hard to keep track.
No, you're right.
Club International, then Stage Giorgiani's, then Crazy Horse, Key Club, Primo, and then Scores.
Okay.
And that was all.
Which was your favorite?
Well, I never went to Club International, but that would have been
that would have been my favorite too. Just for the
pool.
Just for the artist, just for the entertain, just to see that.
Totally.
Just to see all the things, See, these new strip clubs, they don't know what they're doing.
I've never heard of, let alone been in a strip club.
You don't have a pool from the ceiling,
Yeah.
I'm not coming. So the last holdout on this building is the latest strip club.
Well, they're
Right, but
they're
they're
gone now. Yeah,
They're gone.
Yeah.
But
And
they're relocated.
they're relocating. Yeah, not far away, a couple blocks.
Must be very lucrative, the strip club business. And that's a whole other story to this building, right? That's another component to this story.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just yet one more story. I mean, I don't think we're not going to go into the way strip clubs are run. I mean, that's a documentary in it.
No, that's its own thing.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I think the beef of this story is
the building.
the building
the building
itself.
is the star.
It's
Oh,
a
absolutely.
beautiful. I'm telling you,
It
it's
really
a
is.
beautiful building.
The architectural details are just stunning, and when you go inside, I mean, there are just rooms in there that are massive with these, walls that are like a foot thick and these ridiculous metal doors. It is truly a beautiful building, actually, and people are going to get to sort of experience what it's like because we're doing a show at the New Haven Museum.
Oh,
It's going to open in the fall.
Okay.
And you're going to get to literally walk through the different, the rooms in the museum are going to be set up like the different sections of the building and these that have stories related to them. So like the mime troupe and the skateboard park and the, and now I'm just, someone built a full, a half pipe on the
8 foot
fourth
high.
floor.
This is another one of these
of
things.
course they did.
Yeah.
There's other things like you wouldn't believe. Like someone, actually, I was it was a small half pipe, and then somebody who I'd given a tour to said, "Oh, I know who built that." And I've been looking at this for
Wow.
years. I'm like, this is like how these things unfolded. Like, there's a mural of neoclassical hermaphrodites, and like, what is that?
What?
And it turned out to be painted by the fine arts students when the Yale School of Architecture people had the sex ball. But it's like 1984, and it's still there.
Really?
Yeah, and it's cool. They're cool.
And so, how do you preserve that?
so
Do you preserve it?
Well, we're hoping to. Maybe some kind of very site specific.
We'll sell it for $50,000
That's
right
also
now.
another one.
Tell the
But-
architectural school to cough that up so they can have it back.
No, we have it. Oh, yeah, right. Okay, yeah, that'd be good. So, with the half pipe, so it was this little half pipe, and so this person connected me to the person that built it. We're talking on the phone first, and he's like talking about this 8-foot high half pipe. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because we kept going back and forth. I thought he was talking about the little one, and eventually, like he let me know what it was. The first thing he built was this giant one, and I'm like, what are you kidding? He said, well, there's a video on YouTube of Ricky Pelletier, this skateboard legend, shot by somebody from Thrasher magazine, which is like the big skateboard man. So it's and we have it in the film, but it's sort of like these types of many of these things. Again, you wouldn't believe them
I
unless
just
you
couldn't.
had
I just
something
can't.
to back it up.
I cannot.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Did you feel like you were getting an education every time you uncovered something?
Yeah, and also it makes the film. I mean, because at first we started talking about this, it's like, okay, let's do a 30-minute film. I think it would be interesting.
No, you
Not a
can't.
big deal. And then the more we started, I finally said, it's like, yeah, okay, this can be 90 minutes. There's just so many stories. And the reason I chose the name Factory was because I didn't actually want the connection distinctly to New Haven. I want this film to represent that boarded up build. You're driving through St. Louis and there's that really ugly eyesore that's been boarded up for 2 decades and no one's ever doing anything with it, and you wonder what the hell's going on in there. I want you to watch this movie and realize that might be what's going on in your building.
Wow. So that's wonderful. So anybody can take ownership of these kinds of buildings in their communities. You
Yes.
just got to go look.
Right.
Mhm.
You got to just go ask the questions and go take a look. And I love the fact that it's going to get a new life. Like, I'm glad
Yeah.
that nobody said, let's just tear this down
Mm.
and make way for, the boxes that we have going up all over this city right now.
Yeah, that sort of all look
Oh
the
my
same.
God, they're all gray boxes.
Yeah.
I was like, boxes within boxes within boxes. So I love that this building is, as old as it is getting a new life, and people will get to live there and breathe there. And I saw the Arts and Ideas play Home. Did you get a chance to see it?
We tried to go.
I think you
and
would have loved it, because it would
really
have
wanted to
given
go.
you that vibe. It
Mhm.
would have given you that sense of what you're doing with this documentary of how things change, how people come and go, and things take on a different life. So I'm very interested in seeing how this plays out.
Me too. 'Cause then it'll be over, and it's like I can move on to the next one. Then.
Really? So it can't really be over for you until it's over, or
it's not. No, because believe it or not, we're still about to do the sound mix on the pizza movie, so I'm still tweaking even the pizza movie.
Oh,
so it's like,
man.
I'll put it on and I'll just watch it. It's like, that should be 1 frame less, and no one in the world will recognize that it should be 1 frame less. No one will notice the difference because that's 1/124th of a
listen,
second.
you got everybody in the world taking sides on pizza.
Well, because pizza's the only thing that matters.
You got
Pizza's-
everybody in the world. I talk to people, they're like, first of all, what team pizza are you?
Yeah,
And nobody wants to hear what
and
team
there are
pizza I
only
am.
three. There are only 3 teams.
I know, the trine.
That's right. We've gone through this.
We have got- but people have seen this documentary and they're just like,
We're taking it to
Pizza
Chicago, so
Wars.
that should be interesting.
oh Lord,
That's gonna be.
be a
hopefully
fight.
Hopefully, I live through it
they'll escort you to the border.
because we're not too nice to
No.
Chicago. We're not nice to Chicago pizza.
no.
Because Chicago pizza
Not
sucks.
nice to any pizza outside of New Haven. So there you go.
Yeah, okay, basically. Yeah.
So what do you hope people will take away from this documentary? What's your real hope for this?
That to realize that these buildings do not need to meet the wrecking ball, but instead need to meet a smart developer who can take all the dreams that once lived in this building and keep them alive and create new dreams.
Mm-hmm. And you, Bill?
What he said.
Yeah. Well, because you know
But
what,
also,
your life is this kind of work.
Oh, absolutely.
So I mean, he's going to move on to another
Yeah.
thing.
No. I
But
mean,
you're going to be
it's
still looking at buildings.
I'm so grateful that Gorman's taken this on, as well as these people have allowed us to work with them. It's just such a rich and rewarding experience, and I'm obviously very passionate about these buildings, and being able to illustrate to other people why these things are so interesting and exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Is a lot of it. But another big part of it is just it's like this community of people that are connected to the building. There's so much love in the community for the building, whether it's the people we're interviewing or the thousands of people that have some connection. Either some people are alive that work there, or so many people have relatives that work there, or you went to Brick and Wood, or you went to any of the clubs, or you were an artist that in the building, or new artists in the building.
I talked to a woman who was an artist in the building. She was talking about the parties and oh my God. And I'm looking at her, and she looked very conservative. She didn't look, she just looked like, and I couldn't imagine her.
20 years, we sometimes people clean up.
And the thing, but I mean, that is the stories are, we keep finding more of them, and people are so passionate about it. I've had in the past, since that party last week, I've had so many people now write to me and say, "Hey, my band used to play there," or "Hey, I did this," or
wow.
And so we're finding more and more, and I think it's probably going to be like the pizza movie, where right up until the end.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was done with the pizza film last December. We were about to we were planning the sound mix and everything, and Ricky Consiglio of Sally's says, "Hey, I got some stuff for you. Come on over to my house." I went over to his house, and he hands me this box of 14 VHS tapes. He goes, "I don't really know what's on there, but I think there's probably some good stuff." And it's his mom and dad making pizzas. And then especially you look at his dad, Sal, and him or his brother Bobby making pies, and they do it exactly the same. In fact, there's now a section of the film where I compared it to the son and the dad making pies exactly the same way.
Wow.
And I'm not joking. Even the speed in which they put the sauce on, everything.
Yeah, see, I see the love affair with you and this whole pizza thing.
Well, you know me. Pizza will be the death of me. Literally, my heart will just explode at one point.
So you're raising money.
Yes.
Trying to raise money. You raised some money.
Mm-hmm.
Raised quite a bit of money. And how much more do you got left to go?
Well, for this Kickstarter, we still have probably another $6,000 we need to raise.
Okay.
So,
And you got what, 6 days?
6 days.
6 days, $6,000.
We'll
Who
do
got it? Anybody out there? $6,000, 6 days.
Even if you got $5, come and say, and you'll have your name in the end credits. Order the DVD. Order a poster. Order an artifact from the Clock Factor. There's so many cool things.
And where can they go? Tell us where we can go.
Ourkickstarter.com.
Yep.
OUR Kickstarter, KICKSTARTER.com. And which I'm sure will be on the website as well, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
and come in.
But
And
there it
if
is
nothing
right
else,
there.
just go and watch the trailer. The
It's a lot of
trailer will
fun.
make you laugh.
Yes.
It'll make you fall in love with the building. There's
Yes.
so many great stories in there. And we need your help. And I mean, ultimately the film, a film like this ends up costing about $120,000 in the long run.
Mhm.
We'll get there.
I know you will, because if by evidence of the people that came to the party,
Mhm.
and it was a swanky little party in a cool space on a lovely day.
We had the weather.
I mean, you couldn't have asked for better weather, and then the breeze through the wherever that little alley part
Underpass,
was. Woo, it was wonderful. So I was very pleased to be, and to see people I haven't seen in a very long time convening, and an interesting mix of people.
a complete, wonderfully diverse
Oh
collection
my
of people.
God.
It's great.
But what it did is it's a cross section of New Haven on the one hand, but it's also people that have connections to each one of these stories.
Yes.
So it just kind of
Yes.
organically happened that way.
Yes.
This diverse, interesting, lively crowd reflecting New Haven, but also reflecting the stories in the building.
Mm-hmm.
And and it was just, that's my kind of party. I
Mhm.
have to say, just like we both had a great time.
That's a wonderful thing.
Babz, are you going to allow us to interview you at some point on
Mm,
film?
yeah, we have
and we can
to.
talk about the shows you saw at Brickenwood.
Yeah.
All right.
You just call me.
we'll
I'll
set
come
that up.
run.
Okay.
Ooh, I love to talk about that.
Yeah, well, in particular, like as Gorman said, like Brickenwood R&B, people listening have stories. Let us
Yes, yes, they do.
know. Yeah.
And I mean, I tell you, that was the place, and I was relatively, probably almost too young to be in those places in those
you
days.
Wouldn't have gone. You wouldn't have gone into a place illegally. Come on.
No, not at all.
Now the Brickenwood hardcore people, hardcore punk people, that was geared toward the underage.
Oh yeah, there were
Oh,
people
was
that
it?
saying there were 14 and going into the club.
13.
So,
There was like the
Yeah.
chats on Facebook.
And so when you talk to them now,
yeah,
because they're now
it's a
now
range. It's a
grown
range.
up and
Yeah.
married, probably with kids who have.
that age ready to go into
Yeah.
with their fake IDs. Yes.
Yes, so
Yeah.
that's got to be like karma. So, well, thank you guys for coming.
Thank you for having
I'm
us.
so excited about this film, and I'm excited about this building to see how it all plays out, and that it gets a new life. And I'm looking forward to whatever you do after this. I don't even want to ask you.
Yeah. Well, next day. Well, I'm sure I'll be talking to you about NH Docs next year. Lots of changes.
Oh
next
yeah.
Year.
Oh really?
Yeah, we're taking it more into the community and trying to make it a lot more community friendly.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're gonna leave the auspices of Yale's campus a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
That's all right. Use them too. Shoot. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Gorman. Thank you, Harry. I'm gonna play us out. Is the music queued up? I'm ready to go. Oh, I don't know if Harry is around, but we're gonna go. And thank you all for listening to Lovebabz Love Talk. I had the distinct pleasure of talking to Gorman Bouchard and Bill Cross from Factory Documentary. And you can go to www.ourkickstarter.com to help them raise $6,000 in 6 days. Put your money where your mouth is. This is good filmmaking at its very best. I'll see y'all.